that even now, what's about to happen? This is being reasonable.
What a superhero can do, a supervillain can almost certainly do just as well.
Your weakness, Peter, is morality. It's choking you.
The logic is similar when it comes to flexing, as supervillains can be just as nasty or more.
Let's put a smile on that face.
Keeping that in mind, I'm giving you my top 25 supervillain flexes in the movies.
While the world tries to make you choose, gods don't have to choose.
If you've been able to remain iconic even 20 years after you made your first appearance, people should really be sitting down and taking notes. The Green Goblin is a prime example of that. Bro gave Spider-Man a serious run for his money all the way back in 2002 and is still inspiring Halloween costumes to this date.
I may have struck the blow, but you are the one that killed her.
You can only imagine how his appearance in No Way Home totally shook the world because, let's face it, the Goblin from The Amazing Spider-Man was nothing more than a cheap copy. Anyway, the flex in question here is when Norman Osborn is able to get back to his senses and tries to fight the demons within.
You make me sick. Leave me alone, please. Hiding in the shadows.
Unfortunately for him, the sass is strong with the Goblin and he tells him exactly what he should be doing because, after all, they're pretty much like gods in the Marvel Universe. Man, William truly is Defoe of himself. Those memes started to make a lot more sense after I watched this film.
Strong enough to have it all. Too weak to take it!
Sire, you have an irrational obsession with this animal! You must stop, for God's sake!
There is no God! That's why I stepped in!
It's so ironic to know that you've done a great job at being a villain only when the public hates your guts. Yes, the Joker's one of the few exceptions in this case, but if you look at characters like Joffrey from Game of Thrones, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Iconic villains are pretty much like diamonds in the rough today, but the High Evolutionary from the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 does fall within those lines. Bro was spiteful, just for the sake of it, you know?
In hundreds of years of our creations, only one has known true invention.
We all hated him, and funnily enough, that actually proves we love the villain. Anyway, the one line that stuck with me the most was when he spoke about filling the gap left by the non-existent gods of his time. I don't know how you feel about it, but to me, it's probably the best line to sum up a villain.
I don't need another speech by some impotent whack job whose mother didn't love him, rationalizing why he needs to conquer the universe.
I'm not trying to conquer the universe. I'm perfecting it.
Or giving you clairvoyance enough to find the rebels' hidden fort.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Say what you will about Darth Vader, the man does believe in the importance of faith. Don't believe me? Just take a look at this scene with Officer Motti in the first ever Star Wars movie. The whole concept of Mr. Vader was still alien to the fans of the world, and this moment perfectly captured what he was all about.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed. The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force.
It's very simple to criticize people, but it's the follow-through that sets you apart. Unfortunately for Motti, that wasn't the case, which is exactly why Darth Vader choking him with the Force felt so satisfying to watch. Come on, admit it. Haven't you ever felt like doing something similar when an annoying person just won't shut up? Also, the actor who plays Officer Motti is the one who really sells the scene. The way he actually makes it look like he's being choked and then dropping like a puppet with his strings cut off after Vader speaks is absolute perfection.
I'm a member of the Imperial Senate on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan.
You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take it away!
Do you know how many rebellions I have put down? How many Avengers I've killed? And you think you can beat me? I am king!
The MCU can try all they want, but I think it's safe to say they won't be able to make Kang the kind of villain Thanos was. I'm not even trying to take shots at the dude, it's just impossible to replicate the unstoppable force that was the Infinity Saga. For what it's worth though, Kang does give it his best shot to look dangerous, especially in front of Ant-Man and his family.
I'm an Avenger.
You're an Avenger. Have I killed you before?
Bro actually got offended when Scott tried to stop him in his tracks, and that too, just because it hurt his ego. To be honest, it was a little badass to see him flexing by saying he's lost count of the number of Avengers he's killed. It's actually pretty scary if you think about it, and that man even followed through on his word by dominating the Lang family with ease right after. It's a real shame they couldn't be friends, isn't it? Especially considering how their names rhyme perfectly.
They all blur together after a while. You're not the one with the hammer.
That's Thor.
But even now, what's about Dad? This is me being reasonable.
It's kinda hard to carry your own movie if the villain's more overpowered than you. That's exactly what happened with poor Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Apart from some very obvious plot holes and a bunch of questionable character decisions, I was still impressed with some elements of the film, and Elizabeth Olsen's performance as the Scarlet Witch was definitely one of them.
You break the rules and become a hero. I do it and I become the enemy. That doesn't seem fair.
She knew she was unstoppable in this film and it really showed. The sass she brought to this role was of a different level, and we could see it best when she attacked all the sorcerers at Kamar-Taj. I mean, if this is what being reasonable looked like, I don't even want to see the other side. Yeah, you can fortify your minds as much as you want, but there's no way you're getting past a villain who was once a hero.
A solution to every problem. I won't lose them again.
I can only manipulate the fire. Can't create it.
You are a god among insects.
When we talk about sassy villains, Magneto usually finds his way into the conversation. Yeah, I'm talking about the OG Sir Ian McKellen version. Michael Fassbender's depiction is way too depressing to be considered savage. Apart from besting Professor X at Mind Games, the man also has a way of bringing flaky mutants over to his side with just a few simple words. In the case of Pyro, he didn't even need to try that hard. He knew that he was dealing with a mutant who felt lonely when it came to his ideals.
They say you're the bad guy.
Is that what they say?
And he latched onto that insecurity with one simple sentence. I also want to point out the fact that Magneto pulled a double whammy on Pyro here. Yes, he did call him a god, but he also said that the worshippers were insects. It can technically be interpreted as both a compliment and a burn. Semantics aside, the scene gave us a good look into Eric's psyche and what he thinks of the human race.
It's a dorky looking helmet. What's it for?
This dorky looking helmet is the only thing that's going to protect me from the real bad guys.
It's easy to fool people when they're already fooling themselves.
When it comes to creating illusions, there's none better than Mysterio in the Spider Universe. He's shown time and time again why he's the master of gaslighting. And no, I'm not just saying that because of the whole Jake Gyllenhaal and Taylor Swift scandal. Honestly though, bro should have thought twice before playing a manipulative villain who tricks people into thinking he loves them.
I created Mysterio to give the world someone to believe in.
Anyway, his most badass flex was the fight where he totally dominates Spider-Man with his illusion drones, and it was a sight to behold. Yeah, it was an overdose of CGI, but the structure of the sequence was good enough to be praiseworthy. I've never seen Peter Parker as helpless as he was here, and this was after he fought against Thanos. When you've got people like Mysterio in your life, it really makes you wonder if you can trust anybody, even yourself.
But for what it's worth, Peter, I really am sorry.
You, Avengers, you are my meteor, my swift and terrible sword, and the Earth villain.
The more I talk about this movie, the more I start to think that we should give it another chance. With the way the film industry's been moving lately, a lot of hidden gems are finally getting the respect they deserve, and to me, one such gem is 2009's Watchmen.
Gentlemen, welcome.
Adrian, we know everything.
Then what's there to discuss, Dan?
For starters, it was directed by the one and only Zack Snyder, which technically makes it his first ever DC film. On top of that, it gave us some highly memorable characters like Ozymandias and Rorschach. As a matter of fact, this scene involves the both of them in an elaborate yet calming exchange. The whole "I'm not a comic book villain" line wasn't just an extremely meta joke, it was also a stamp of authority from Ozymandias because, truth be told, he is much more than that. He didn't live up to the stereotype because he went far beyond it to give us a character that commanded respect and deserved every single ounce of it. Also, I think he says something similar in the comics, so help me out in the comments if you know what that line was.
So in order to save this planet, I had to trick it. The biggest practical joke in human history.
Killing millions.
To save billions.
You know all those dangerous mutants you hear about on the news? I'm the worst one.
The X-Men sequel is making its mark on this list, and rightly so. It's easily the best of the OG trilogy. There's a whole bunch of flexes from this movie that are worthy of my respect, but since we're only keeping it to villains, I want to talk about the moment Pyro becomes one. In his defense, he did get triggered by Wolverine getting shot in the head, but I think he forgot the fact that Logan can heal from stuff like that. Either way, I'm glad we got to see a flaming display of his powers, and the line he delivers before going berserk totally enhances the whole scene. Alright, maybe he was being a bit dramatic by proclaiming himself as the most dangerous mutant, but still, Pyro's got a nice fire inside him, and he impressed one and all with that fearsome assault.
Oh, where do you think you're going? I'm sick of this kids' table shit. I'm going in there.
John, they told us to stay here.
You always do as you're told?
You believe your son is safe? I will find him. I will reclaim what you have taken from us.
You don't mess with a man like General Zod, even if you're imprisoning him for eternity by freezing his body. He makes that quite clear in front of the Kryptonian court, but probably what stuck to me most was when he issued his threat to Kal-El's parents.
I will harvest the codex from your son's corpse, and I will rebuild Krypton atop his bones.
The confidence that he must have had to actually say something so brutal was nothing short of excellent acting from Michael Shannon. When I first saw him as Zod, I was a bit confused because he didn't really look that threatening to me, especially as a dude who's supposed to be Superman's enemy. However, after everything was said and done, I can safely admit that I was wrong to worry about that. What I wasn't wrong about though was being skeptical of his role in The Flash. Like, it was pretty evident that he came back only for the paycheck.
I will find him, Laura. I will find him!
It's not impossible.
Darling, you have no idea what's possible.
Yes, this was a pretty safe bet, wasn't it? Hela is the perfect example of a villain with sass, and she had the strength to back it up as well.
I'm Thor, son of Odin.
Really? You don't look like him.
Perhaps we can come to an arrangement.
You sound like him.
I mean, there's no bigger flex than destroying freaking Mjolnir in a Thor movie, right? Sure, the God of Thunder was losing his touch with Captain America slightly moving his hammer, and Vision pretty blatantly lifting it without any effort. However, what Hela did was a power move and utterly annihilated whatever confidence her little brother would have had to defeat her. Breaking Mjolnir was enough of a flex already, but for the goddess of death to condescend to her own brother about what's possible was outright domination. I just wish they didn't show this moment in the trailers. Can you even imagine how much it would have shaken the crowd if they saw it for the first time in the theaters?
Our destiny is to rule over all others. And I am here to restore that power.
Why didn't you just kill me?
We will destroy Gotham, and Gotham is ashes. Then you have my permission to die.
Tom Hardy, he's a special kind of actor, isn't he? Bro can play heroes, villains, anti-heroes, and that too without showing his face. Bane could have been his most memorable role of all time had it not been for the final simp arc they dealt him in the finale. Having said that, Bane in the first half of The Dark Knight Rises was an absolute monster who genuinely scared me in a way that I thought could never be replicated after Heath Ledger's Joker. With a body like that, I'm sure bro liked to flex his muscles from your average Giga Chad.
You're a big guy.
for you.
But the true flex came when he owned Batman in less than 10 business minutes. The physical damage was bad enough, but Bane made sure that Bruce Wayne wasn't going to be let off so easily. Making someone ask for your permission to die is a whole other level of alpha behavior, and that's why I still rate this character so highly.
Stay here. I'm in charge.
Do you feel in charge?
Everyone can be superheroes. Everyone can be super. And when everyone's super, no one will be.
Ah, didn't think I'd include such an entry in a list like this now, did you? Well, you better believe that Syndrome is a grade A villain, because his grand plan was actually a lot deeper than you'd imagine.
And just when all hope is lost, Syndrome will save the day!
For him, turning everyone into a superhero would simply make superpowers normal characteristics. That's what he meant when he said that nobody's super when everybody's super. It's a strong philosophical moment because it actually renders the Incredibles useless, even without harming them in any direct way. Anyway, you could say that he saturated the idea of having people with powers coming to your rescue. With the way things are going right now for the superhero genre in the box office, you might even call him a visionary, eh? See, I'm not different just for the sake of being different.
Sure, it was difficult, but you are worth it. I mean, after all, I am your biggest fan.
Iron Man might like to poke fun at Doctor Strange's side hustle as a kid's magician, but the Joker knows exactly how important it is not to do anything for free.
If you're good at something, never do it for free.
Especially if you're good at it. Just look at the magic trick he pulls in front of Gotham's goons. It's a phenomenal bit of acting and is one of the many reasons why Heath Ledger's rendition of the character is considered to be the best live-action version of all time. It's so much more than a flex, you know. He ridicules and mocks those so-called gangsters and their methods by humbling them without even flinching. Of course, I still don't understand how he was able to dominate Michael Jai White with such ease, but I can let that pass considering the flawlessness of this scene.
An empire toppled by its enemies can rise again, but one which crumbles from within, that's dead. Forever.
Villains are known to flex when they have unlimited power at their disposal. I mean, just ask Emperor Palpatine. However, you don't always need to be that way to come out on top. Helmut Zemo is the perfect example of that. Now, the scene I'm covering is when he gives an epic line about an empire crumbling from within, but I want you to know that by saying this, he's effectively letting us know what his entire plan was right from the start. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of guts to be able to make the freaking Avengers dance to your tunes. That too, when you're not even stronger than an average Giga Chad.
Mission report, December 16, 1991.
However, to see Zemo pulling off such a feat was nothing short of miraculous, and that's exactly why he gets a spot in my top 10.
Who are you? What do you want?
To see an empire fall.
I was bred to be a warrior, Captain. Trained my entire life to master my senses. Where did you train? On a farm?
General Zod makes yet another appearance, and it only proves the point I was making earlier regarding Michael Shannon's performance. Bro knows how to deliver his dialogues with authority.
I exist only to protect Krypton. That is the sole purpose for which I was born.
And the face-off against Superman is one such instance. To be honest, this was definitely a flex fueled by his ego, but if it looks as good as this, who cares? The tone of his speech was so dismissive of Kal-El's powers that we were seriously made to wonder if the Man of Steel actually had it in him to defeat his Kryptonian opponent. Look, the fight was obviously epic in its own right, but please don't think that I'm using that as an excuse to land it so high on my list. The way Zod openly mocks Superman's training is a solid piece of savagery that still holds up even 10 years after its first viewing.
Every action I take, no matter how violent or how cruel, is for the greater good of my people.
We have no quarrel with your people.
An ant has no quarrel with a boot.
Loki might have started off as a villain, but people ended up loving him so much that we just couldn't see him in that light.
I am Loki of Asgard, and I am burdened with glorious purpose.
I'd actually like to go one step further and call him an anti-villain. Yeah, I think that's the term best suited for someone like him.
This is my bargain, you mewling quim.
And having said that, the God of Mischief did have a couple of moments in the first Avengers film, and the sass came in heavy when he likened the whole of humanity to, ants. Regardless, the line had a lot of meaning because it showcased Loki's true perception of the human race, and it was this very arrogance that ended up leading to his downfall. Also, I don't think the producers told him their plans about the Ant-Man movie. Maybe he would have used some other metaphor to explain his sentiments if he knew.
Free from what? Freedom. Freedom is life's great lie. Once you accept that, you will know peace.
A scavenger girl is no match for the power in me. I am all the Sith.
I mentioned him in a previous entry, so I figured, why not give Darth Sidious his own moment here?
Let your death be the final word in the story of rebellion.
I want to be as objective as I possibly can because I totally hated this film for bringing back and insulting a legacy character only for the sake of some box office bucks. So what do I love so much about this film that it finds a spot high up on my list? Well, it's when Palpatine openly mocks Rey for being a scavenger girl with no idea of who she's dealing with. The power display he gives us during this phase was easily and by far the best sequence of the entire movie, and it's more valuable alone than the rest of the runtime put together. The flexing was strong with him, and it showed in the way he spoke down to Rey as well. Bad writing and plot armor ruined the rest of the moment, but I don't want to complain about that too much.
As once I fell, so falls the last Skywalker.
Oh, you think darkness is your ally? You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it.
Well, this scene actually comes before the permission to die moment, but it's just so awesome that I had to put it in my top 5. Bane's first round against Batman was so surreal that nobody could believe what they were watching after a certain point.
You fight like a younger man. There's nothing held back. Admirable, but mistaken.
Now, we all know how much Batman loves the shadows. They released a whole movie in 2022 just to prove that point. However, Bane went on to prove that he was the true master of darkness, even against the Dark Knight himself. Of course, it's not like he needed the deception to defeat Bruce Wayne, but the structure of the scene really improves its overall presentation, and we have Tom Hardy to thank for that. Now, believe it or not, I actually see glimpses of him even in Alfie Solomons from Peaky Blinders.
I am the League of Shadows. I am here to fulfill Ra's al Ghul's destiny.
The circle is now complete. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
The relationship between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker is one of the most complex we've seen in film history. There's a lot more to their dynamic than that of a student and his mentor.
Your powers are weak, old man.
However, when Star Wars first hit the cinema screens all the way back in 1977, their equation had left a lot of people baffled and confused. Now that we've got the necessary context, it's safe to say that Darth Vader had indeed turned the tables and become the master when he was finally reunited with the man who turned him into the man he eventually became. It's a bittersweet moment between two friends who should have had a fairy tale ending, but had to meet tragic ends. But yeah, he did look super badass when he said his line.
You should not have come back.
The one thing they love more than a hero is to see a hero fail, fall, die trying.
The Green Goblin makes a second entry, and considering it's from his first ever live action appearance, I had no other choice but to place him within my top 3.
In spite of everything you've done for them, eventually they will hate you. Why bother?
The thing about a legendary villain is that his motivations make sense even to the ones who try to stop him. It means that he's not going to just speak some random nonsense to look cool, he's actually spitting facts.
You're pathetically predictable. Like a moth to the flame.
Now, when he tells Spider-Man about how people love to see their heroes fail, I actually agreed with him because, well, I mean, it is the truth, isn't it? We can all try to act nice and humble, but the fact of the matter is that everyone gets jealous, and that's the sentiment Green Goblin was pointing towards when he said this, and it does hold true, especially to the current generation whose entire personality is based on reactive behavior.
This is why only fools are heroes. Because you never know when some lunatic will come along with the sadistic choice.
Why so serious?
For the longest time, I thought that Jack Nicholson's Joker would be the ultimate version of the character. Then came along a certain film by the name of The Dark Knight, and it changed history forever. And though he pretty much wants to kill for laughs and gags, this was a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence that I personally believe can never be repeated. Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix can give it his best shot, but he...
Dread it, run from it, destiny arrives all the same. And now it's here. Or should I say, I am.
I've mentioned him so many times before, so I had to give him the top spot, right? Thanos has flexed way too hard to be ignored on a list like this, and I've decided to highlight the epic speech he gives to Thor after pretty much rendering the whole of Ragnarok redundant. The thing about a villain who comes from loss is that he won't see reason or empathy as genuine concerns, but rather as obstructions to the ultimate reality.
The hardest choices require the strongest wills.
As he rightly said, you can try to run from destiny, but it'll still find its way to your fate. The fact that he was saying this with the God of Thunder as his prisoner only makes it all the more badass. I still want to see a matchup between him and Hela though, so I am hoping for some multiverse magic.
I know what it's like to lose. Feel so desperately that you're right, yet to fail nonetheless.
Now that you like this video, please check out the next one.